can actually give you a mustache to make up for your...
All right. There's still ice. There's still ice in there.
Okay.
Welcome to episode 12 of the Not Salty podcast. I'm your host, John Bell. And as always, I am joined by my good friends and co-hosts, Kristen Skeevers and Mike Fenton. In this episode, we interview our friend Josh Spiker. Josh was born and raised in Garrett County. He is a true outdoor enthusiast, and he is the head of the non-for-profit group Garrett Trails. On this podcast, Josh reviews the role of the Garrett Trails organization within the community, talks about life growing up in Western Maryland, and of course, he tells us his best Honi story. If you haven't been to the Garrett Trails website, check it out. Josh and his group have created hundreds of miles of non-motorized trail system throughout the county. It's a pretty cool group. If you're into hiking, mountain biking, or just knowing a little bit about the behind-the-scenes history of the area, turn the volume up and enjoy the show. Mike, hit the intro. And here we go. Welcome to episode number 12. I turned 46 last week.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to me.
How does it feel?
Well, so I don't know. It's kind of morbid. Like I was telling Noelle, I don't know if morbid's the right word, but it hit me one day that I probably won't live past 90. I mean, it's a good assumption that 90 is probably pushing the limits, and hopefully I make it there, but I'm probably not going to make it past 90, right? I'm definitely on the downhill side.
Oh my God, Sean.
Yeah, but here's how I always looked at it. You get to live your whole life over.
Good point.
And half of it, you were like less, 15 and younger, so you're smarter.
My buddy Dave texted me on my birthday, and he's like, whatever, dude, we're in our prime. We're stronger than we've ever been, and blah, blah. Maybe I knew he was lying, but maybe I better about myself.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm in my prime, guys. Actually, am. Good point.
Full swing.
It's kind of neat, too, because we're packing, and we're getting ready to move. And so I started packing up stuff, and I found a bunch of my old high school report cards and all that kind of stuff, and I forget what it was. It was something in the 9th grade, and I was like, man, I totally forgot about that. Like, totally forgot. So, yeah, you're right, Mike. We get to live all that over again. That was a long time. Now, if I'm 90 and if we're still doing this podcast and I'm 90, that's going to suck.
Dude, I can't wait to hear your voice when you're 90. You'll be like, yeah.
You think the speech impediment's bad now?
Hey, nice hat, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, it looks good.
It was my birthday present. Thanks. Kristen ordered them.
Yeah, we got some not salty swag.
Yeah, John has a standard hat, and Kristen and I have specialty hats, so special order only.
Before we get into the show, I've got to give a shout out to somebody who I don't even know. And I had a birthday party on Saturday at Paw and Run, and there was a guitar player there. And I didn't realize who this guitar player was, and I still don't. He was a great guitar player. I wish that I would have paid more attention to him, but I didn't. It was my birthday. There was probably 50 people there, and I was just pulling a million directions. It was really fun, but I was just talking to everybody, and I didn't pay attention to this guitar player, right? And I did notice at one point, Fenton, you were just sitting there on the couch watching him, and it didn't dawn on me. I was like, look at this loser. talking about you, not the guitar player. But I was like, why is he not talking to anybody? It's totally out of character for Fenton not to be talking to people. And then I forgot to talk to you because I got busy, but whatever. So then Jesse texted me the next day or something, and he goes, dude, when I walked into your party, you were standing about 1.5 feet in front of this guitar player, and basically he was singing to your butt. And again, I wasn't paying attention. And he goes, that's funny to me because this guy is super, super famous, popular coming up. Jesse was saying that he sold
really
out some
good.
show in Maine or something.
Yeah.
And I regret not talking to him. I super regret not listening to him. And I feel, holy cow, privileged he was actually there. Who was this guy?
Cole Davidson, I think. I don't know his last name. He was introduced to me as Cole when I first met him, and he's phenomenal. He's really, really good. Super talented on guitar, very good singer, and I only seen him in Garrett County twice. Once was when Shimrock did his guitar expo at Moonshadow. Another time he was randomly playing at Deep Creek Seafood.
Oh.
And then this time when I got there, I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty good. Oh. And then I'm like, Jimmy got there and I was like, is that Cole? He goes, yeah, it is. I was like, wow, did Noelle get Cole to play at John's birthday? And I talked to Noelle. She was like, he was just here. I'm like, wow.
We didn't hire him or anything. He was just there. Jesse told
Pretty
me
cool.
he's friends with Andrew, one of the owners at Pawn Run, and just came in and agreed to play or whatever. And it was super cool. And if you're listening, thank you. I'm sorry for making you sing into my butt. It was such a horrible thing. Someday, we wish you the best of luck. We'd love to have you on the show. And someday when you're on Jimmy Kimmel, please feel free to make fun of us. Thank you.
100% Cole Davidson.
Cole Davidson, everyone. Mike, hit the round of applause thing when whatever it is, if we have one. Close enough. So enough about me.
Might be.
We're here today with our good friend, Garrett County homegrown boy who runs Garrett Trails, our friend Josh Spiker.
How are you guys?
What's up, man?
Excellent.
So, Josh, you grew up here. Your father was a home builder. Family was tied into real estate. And somehow you got hooked up with a group called Garrett Trails.
Right.
What the heck do you guys actually do?
So Garrett Trails is a nonprofit that works in the county, primarily on county ground, along with certain DNR lands. So Paul Sarbanes Trail at Jennings Randolph Reservoir, Fork Run Recreation Area, Meadow Mountain Trail, Margraf Plantation and Accident, and Visitor Center Trail here in McHenry.
We were talking with Paul Edwards on one of the episodes, and Paul said, I think it was a conversation we had on the side, I don't remember if it was an episode or not, but you're a lot like the Parks and Rec of Garrett County, maybe? Like Garrett County doesn't have a park and rec, so you guys are a lot like that, but you build bike and hiking trails?
Yeah, we specialize in non-motorized trails, so biking, hiking. The Parks and Rec, certainly in the land use plans that the county's put out in years past, we've been called de facto.
Okay.
That changed with last year's plan that the county released, which I recommend everyone go on. I'm a management plan guy, so I like reading them. But you'll find a lot of useful information about public land in the county. And so as we move forward, we're trying to get some of the maintenance stuff more towards the county side, as far as whether that's hiring contractors or things of that nature.
I haven't spent much time with you at work, but I've seen you work a couple of days. And one of your first things you think to yourself is, how hard can it be to build trails?
Right.
Like, I mean, you think in your head, you go with a chainsaw and you build a trail. It actually is hard to build. I'll let you elaborate on that. And then once you have the trail, it's actually hard to maintain. Like, you can't just avoid it or else it'll grow back to wild again, right?
Right. And that's, when you work with different land managers, whether it be state agencies or county, and even just the general public, that's one of the concerns about developing new trails. How do you maintain them into the future? In fact, when I'm in front of, say, Senator Cardin or someone like that, I get the very small, just little FaceTime as the bigwigs around me speak to him. But if I'm asked by an assistant or chief of staff, what are the needs of the county for trails, the very first thing that I mention is long-term maintenance programs.
Sure.
Staff the state parks, fund the state parks so that they can do the state park duties as opposed to being spread thin on a bunch of maintenance issues. And then for building trails, the actual building for single track trails isn't really complicated. A mini excavator, a couple of laborers with some hand tools, you can get a lot done.
It's still time consuming, right?
It's time consuming. What I find is the most time consuming is trying to find the funds.
Okay.
And traditionally, before COVID, we can all say that now, it was.
We're going to get flagged again. Every episode is totally fine. But if we
do?
say
It's
something about
been-
COVID, it's the
yeah.
world we live in.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and it was a different world. When you would go to try to get money for trails prior to this, you could spend years and years trying to get just a little bit here, a little bit there to develop trails. And then as we were on quarantine, the world recognized the need for outdoor recreation. It grew so tremendously, particularly here in the county where, you're looking at trail counter numbers that tripled through that. The people in the state assembly and other political leaders, community leaders have said, we want to see the money that came in from outdoor rec be reinvested back into trail infrastructures. And that's really, my experience, the first time that's ever happened in an area like this. Wow. You see it certainly, I know a lot of people here have been to Colorado. You see those communities are designed around trails in many ways. They're integrated, where trails here are sort of an afterthought. And that's no longer the case. When we speak to people, we talk about this is infrastructure. It's important to the community. It's important for their health. It's important for people to be able to operate or start new businesses that are close to trails. So that's really the harder part, is to find the money and get it applied in a timely fashion, So
One of the, I think it's, hopefully I don't I don't know how to say this the right way. I do think a positive thing that came out of COVID, obviously COVID is very negative, a positive thing that came out of it is it woke people up and reminded them that it's fun to be outside.
Right.
I've noticed that in mountain biking, hiking, skiing, you see it in golf, like everything outside had just kind of slowed down over the years. And
Right.
then now all of a sudden people are like, oh man, it's really nice to be outside.
Right.
So if you want to be outside, you have to have trails. And I guess one of the issues, if you don't have trails, people are going to go there anyway, and they're trespassing and they're getting hurt where people can't help them. So trail systems are important for people to actually use, but if you don't make them, they're going to make their own, which is what you don't want.
Yeah, we don't want to see that. And, in the past, again, you're correct. You'd have, whether it be UTV use, ATV use, or just people walking. If you own private property in Garrett County, in the past, you likely encountered people on your property. But since this infrastructure has been built out in the state forest, state parks, county property, they have a place to go now.
Yeah.
I think the same could be said for the on-the-road UTV sticker.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So now that they're legally allowed to drive on roads in certain places, they're not going over the top of the mountain on your property. And that's one of the things I try to focus on, too, is to help disperse people and do that by showing them all the options available to them. So our trail page is not comprehensive. Very few things, there's a lot of trails in this county that are small, different places, but we try to show people without giving away everyone's favorite location. But at the end of the day, there are many beautiful places besides Swallow Falls or besides Deep Creek State Park.
Mike's going to invent an app that shows where everybody is, so we'll know where the popular areas are. Hey, there's your app idea. Josh would totally hate it, but it would totally work.
Well, I hate to burst the bubble, but the Strava heat map already did.
Strava's awesome.
Man, I've really got to get on social media one of these days. So I did see you one time. We were on the backside of Fork Run, and we met there about a parking lot, and you were showing me where you were cutting in a new trail, and this was a couple years ago, whenever it was, and that's even complicated. I mean, some of this terrain you're navigating through. I didn't walk very far with you, but I mean, it was thick and it was rocky, and it was just you had to get in there somehow and bust through the woods and figure out where you can have a trail, because Fork Run's pretty, but it's also it's diverse. You've got cliffs and you've got areas that are easy to walk on, and is that pretty fun for you to lay out those trails?
It's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
And that's, I started with Garrett Trails in 2010 as a seasonal employee when they built the Red Trail in Fork Run. We like to say that trail was handcrafted. It was a group, myself, another local named Brian Bernard. He was hired as the assistant foreman. And we went in with a group of kids from Community Action. So kids from Westernport, I say kids, teenagers, 18, 19, that were looking to develop job skills.
Yeah.
And so we put digging bars and shovels in their hands and took them into Fork Run for maybe almost 4 months.
Nothing like digging to build character.
It did build a lot of character. These days with the machines, you can go a lot faster. But my point is like the layout. I love the layout because for me, I have to walk back and forth across the hill dozens and dozens and dozens of times. You're always trying to keep it below a certain grade, right? You don't want it to be too steep in places. A lot of that also is for maintenance. But I just get to walk back and forth across the hill. And then I move my flagging until by the time I'm done, I've seen pretty much every piece of that hillside.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. In Fork Run, bobcat kittens. First time I've ever seen a bobcat kitten.
Oh, I didn't know what you were saying. I've never seen a bobcat.
Yeah.
I was imagining like an excavator.
I know.
I'm like,
yeah.
what's a bobcat kitten? I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, these are the special things you just get to see by being able to spend your time outside.
Well, especially before the trail goes in.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, to be clear, the trail is nowhere near where I saw them.
Okay.
And that's important to us.
Because they're grown up by now.
Yeah.
The kittens were super cute.
Yeah, I mean, that's important to us. And I did certainly say, okay, if this is a habitat that they're using on this side, where can I move this away from that habitat? Because it does change drastically across the hillside.
Yeah.
It goes from a rocky terrain to a full greenbrier, deer browse terrain. And so we tend to stay over in that greenbrier, deer browse terrain there.
Well, and your group is still disturbing the forest a little bit,
Sure.
but it's not like you're disturbing it a lot. It's not like you're building a golf course, things like that. Not beat up on a golf course, but I did notice when you put one in, all the animals who used to live there now have to live somewhere else. You guys are making paths, and you're being very environmentally friendly with what you do.
It's the goal. We have regulations that we have to follow depending on who the grant comes from.
Yeah.
So the Fork Run Connector Trail that we're hoping to get built this year is an MDOT Recreational Trails Program grant. So it had to go through an entire environmental review process. It went to, because it's a Maryland Environmental Trust property, it went through DNR reviews. And so when they come back and they say, okay, you can build the trail, but you can't cut any tree larger than 4 inches.
Gotcha.
That sort of sets the mandate for how we'll design the characteristics of the trail. And we use natural leaf litter to mulch when we're done. So the edges of the trail, we just go out, we find leaf piles in the forest, collect those, so we're not bringing in grass that doesn't belong there.
Well, and I guess your argument to that is your disturbance of the forest is way less than would it be if you didn't do it. Like if you guys didn't build those trails and Mike and I went on our own with our own Bobcat, we would do a lot more damage than what you guys are doing.
Well, and the reality is that on, say, the north side of Fork Run, where the new communities are going up on top of Bush Mountain, those folks are going to use Fork Run, right? And if they don't have a trail to use Fork Run, because the property lines are adjacent, they're going to create their own. So that's one of the reasons that we sought these funds, is to create a new trailhead on that side, on Adventure Way Road, to give people one place to go in and out in an effort to tamp that down.
I'm excited for you guys to build those trails, or I'm excited for people to start using Fork Run. Fork Run, if you're listening to this show, you should go there. Fork Run's beautiful. It's there's areas that are hard, there's areas that are easy. You guys have a mark. There's a map that tells you where to go when you get there. It's just amazing me. So many people still don't know about it.
Yes, I was going to say, so for the listener, if you're not familiar with Fork Run, it's on Shingle Camp Road. It now is, buddied up to kind of like the Biltmore community. It's close to Lodestone Golf Course.
Boys Run.
Yeah, and you would go past it to get to Swallow Falls if you're going up over the mountain, and it connects to Oakland Sang Run. So if you've never been to Fork Run, it's kind of just behind like the lake area in Wisp.
And in your group's credit, it's not easy to find. It's not very conspicuous. I mean, there's the...
You wouldn't normally drive by it, right?
Yeah, it's not where you normally drive by, and the entrance is the... I don't know how you describe it. Two great big logs with a log on top that says Fork Run.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very not disturbing. If you don't know, you might think it's somebody's driveway or something like that. But if you see a sign called Fork Run, pull in there and look for the maps.
It's great that it's so close to McHenry too.
Oh, dude.
It's very rugged. You feel like you're out there. You know what I mean?
2 miles from where we're sitting now. It's not far.
Not very far.
It's McHenry zip code, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, with 10 miles of trail in Fork Run, there's plenty of places to branch out and explore. Certain miles of those are across the creek, and so we tend to see less traffic over there. So again, by putting a trailhead on that side, we can get people to use those trails over there more. There's a lot of great developments that are going to happen in Fork Run in the next year or two. We've already got funding secured for new signage. That's one of the complaints that we've gotten over the years, is that the sign, it's a topo map. If you're not really familiar with it, it's hard to tell where you are.
Yeah.
I sit in the parking lot and I watch people go up to signs, and I kind of count how long they're there for. About 30 seconds is your max, and then they just kind of turn around and walk a direction.
They might be like me. I just genuinely love maps. I'm like, ooh.
You've got to tell them your story about the first time you went to Fork Run.
Yeah, so, I worked with NLP.
Right.
So we were developing the properties up there, and my buddy Steve Wolford, who was managing the office at the time, was like, you got to get out to Fork Run. Our property adjoins it, and you got to learn it. So I'm out there, and I'm looking at this map. I'm like, sweet. And I never really been out hiking before, not like that.
He moved here from Philly. In case
Right.
So I'm like, all right, sweet. And I'm like walking down the trail, and then I see a sign that's like, you are in the back country. Right. If you get hurt, no one is coming to save you. No, it was like, but it was, long, but it said something about bear, and I just turned around and went right back. I was like, well, yep, he's talking to me, and I better be careful.
Yeah. But that adds to the thrill. I think it's great, and it probably tells you if you shouldn't be there, you should turn around.
I went back and told Steve, and he was like, he put his arm around me. We got in his car. We went back out there. He was like, no. Don't tell anybody this story.
And when that sign went in, there's two of them actually. It's to try and set a reasonable expectation for people at that point.
It's legit. Like after that,
makes
it gets
sense.
You need to.
But the good thing is literally, if you, for some reason, if you get lost somehow and you just walk in any direction, you know what I mean? If you hit water, you follow the water out to the road.
Stay on the trail and head up.
Well, that's true too, of course. But
yeah, Fork Run is one of the few places you could do that. Although I have had people put on Google reviews that they got lost on the Green Trail and jogged Hoy's Run Road.
Oh my gosh!
Up to Oakland Sang Run Road, up the hill, to get their car.
So they might,
because there's not much cell phone service back there.
There's not.
You might get a text message out,
especially on that side of the creek.
So good news with new funding, we have the opportunity to put all new signage in at the trailheads.
Yeah.
All right.
Ooh, can you put a little cell tower?
No cell tower, but we'll have signage back in Fork Run that also is a "You Are Here's" type signage. So when you get to the bridge, you'll see where you are. You'll have an idea of how many miles you'd have to do to keep going and things like that.
The only thing I always think, too, is don't do it if it's getting dark. You're going to be fine until it gets dark. If you get stuck after dark, be ready to sleep against the tree.
And if you go into the woods, bring a backpack and make sure there's a headlamp in there.
Yes.
At all times. There's certain things that you should always have on you when you go in the woods.
Well, this is a
Okay.
good question. Have you been lost?
Oh, I know the answer to this.
Have I been lost? Yes.
It sucks. I've been lost before too. It's a weird feeling.
I'm trying to recall if I've been lost in Garrett County. I don't know that I've ever felt lost in Garrett County.
Oh.
And I get to some pretty far
No,
out
I mean, like,
places.
that's like a cute thing about home. Like, you always
Oh,
feel
yeah,
at
yeah.
home
Oh,
and not
okay.
lost. All right, nobody got it. That's fine.
No,
Somebody
I'm-
listening will get it.
But there are places I've been around the country, particularly in the Southwest, where I've stopped because I've recognized that I have no clue where I'm at currently. And that's a very disconcerting feeling.
I got lost here once at Vendex. We were down there riding four-wheelers, and man, I got separated from the group, and it was getting dark, and I had maybe, I don't know, an ounce of gas left.
Right.
And I was at the point, I was like, well, I guess we're going to sleep outside. And it was Noelle and I. And then, I don't know, for whatever reason, it was like really lucky. Chad Montgomery goes riding right by. I was like, hey, wait. And like, I was so lost. But I mean, it can happen. And there was no cell phone service, and I guess you're just going to be ready for it.
Yeah, and again, I encourage people before they go out to go to our trail page, kind of get an idea of the trail description they're going to hit. Everywhere in Garrett County is bear country.
Yeah.
And we do have poisonous snakes in the county, which are very elusive, very difficult to see, but they are there. Fork Run particularly, I've seen a lot of bears with cubs back there in the springtime.
So it's true, there's never actually been a bear attack, right?
I've never heard of one.
There's I do feel like there was a website or something. From everything I remember, Kristen, maybe Google it later, but I don't think a bear in Garrett County has ever attacked a human. I do remember a story of a lady. I don't know if this is true or not. It was an interesting story. A lady was living in Sky Valley or somewhere, and her doorbell rang. And whenever she opened the door, it was a bear accidentally pushed on her. She fell back and hit her head, and the bear caused the bear technically caused the incident, but the bear didn't actually attack her.
Right.
Like, I think if I remember the story right, she had a bird feeder hanging above her door, so the bear was eating it, and his paw hit the doorbell, and she opened it and fell back and hit her head. From my understanding, that's the only bear attack in Garrett County.
Bear adjacent attack.
But how cute is that? You like open your door and the bear just rang the bell by accident.
Well, it's cute until he's 350 pounds and looking at you.
I know, but you're like, who's there? And it's
Now,
just a little
with
bear.
that said, if you see a cub, do not try to pet it. Don't be the first.
No,
you
I've
know?
had them pop jaws at me. I've had them huff at me. I've had them put their head down and sway.
Have you been followed?
By a black bear? No. In fact, I mean, I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens, and mostly what you see is their back end.
Yeah, for sure.
It's trying to get out of the way.
They don't
Yeah.
want to be. Yeah. I remember the first time Mandy saw a black bear was when we were down on the property we lived on, Deep Creek Drive, and we're coming down the hill, and I got like big time man points because we came down and there's this.
You didn't scream?
No. I did scream, but what I said was, so we're coming down the hill, and Mandy's like, oh my God, what is that? And it was probably a 300-pound, 350-pound black
big.
bear. And I was like, I got this. And I rolled down the window. I was like, hey, bear, get out of here, bear. And she was like, oh my God, Mike, you're such a big man.
You were in a car.
You're right. Yeah, when I had.
If I wasn't, I'd be like, no, just
The
kidding.
bear
That's
can't
it.
run 60 miles an hour. Just hit the gas.
Although this one time, because in that same, it was lakefront. So I would get out and kayak.
Oh, that'd be weird.
And the bear was on the other side. So I'm on Deep Creek Drive. Bear was on the Marsh Hill side. And it gets in the water.
Right.
And it starts swimming towards me. And I'm in the middle. So I'm like, I hope I can paddle faster than this bear can swim. I mean, it
No.
was coming right at me.
No, he's
man.
going to get you. He'll catch you.
Well, he did. I made it back in time, and he,
Okay,
went
but you
around
get
his
on
way.
shore and then he chases you.
But I'm just, he didn't want to have anything to do
Right.
with me. He didn't want to have anything. He just
was
was
just
like,
saying
I was in
hi.
his way. It was in my head because, like, he just
Right.
wants free trash, So.
And that's the ones that I've encountered that have made the jaw popping. I've obstructed their path without knowing it.
Yeah.
We've come around a corner,
Caught him off guard.
something like that, and they're making it very obvious that I'm the one that needs to move. So just look down, don't make eye contact, back away slowly, that kind of thing. In Fork Run, I did consider one time getting under my wheelbarrow, which I don't know that getting under a wheelbarrow would help, but I was just pushing
it
it.
comes
Well,
down to
thanks
it.
for sharing that.
No, I was pushing it through the forest. I had a shovel in my hand, and
I would have whacked
and
him with a shovel instead of got on the wheelbarrow. But
so a mother with cubs came off of Shingle Camp Road and crossed right in front of me. And so I started making a lot of noise as soon as I saw it. So I didn't surprise it. And it immediately did what a black bear does in that situation. It starts swaying its head. It gets kind of aggressive. And I wasn't impeding them at all, but I definitely was looking at the shovel. I was looking at the wheelbarrow. And I'm like, I don't know, this still doesn't add up. Right?
Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me. Please
Yeah,
don't
like
hurt
this
me.
isn't going to help.
Put the cubs in the wheelbarrow. Push him towards the mom.
Here's an offering.
Right.
So tell me if this isn't true. Every time I see a bear, I'm always like, what's that dog doing here? And then I'm like, oh, no, that's a bear. Like every time I see a bear, I think it's a dog at first, and I realize it's a bear.
100%.
Yeah, especially in the springtime.
Every
and normally
time.
bears mess with you way less than dogs do. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd normally rather walk up on a bear than a dog.
I would too.
But,
Yeah.
Good point.
hey, have you seen anything else? So Krista and I were talking. There's also rumors that there are panthers here.
Yeah, mountain
Have you ever ran into
lions.
one?
So I've never come across the mountain lion.
Is there a difference between a panther and a mountain lion? Is it the same animal?
I believe same species.
It's a big
just
cat.
You would use the different
One
word,
is
a
the
different
opposite
area.
of albino.
Gotcha.
The other one's not.
But I've never encountered one. Certainly, I've had relatives, lifelong hunters in Garrett County that have encountered them. I don't believe there's an official stance on them
Yeah.
that they're here or not.
Well, there is. National Geographic says they're extinct. So,
There you
What?
yeah.
go. Who knows? We're
But when
They're
you
not extinct.
gonna
I know.
fact check
but,
that.
I mean, that's. Oh, go on.
when you
They
look,
might be endangered. They're not extinct. People are out west.
In Mid-Atlantic. Sorry.
Oh, in the mid.
Mid-Atlantic.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you need to say
in
things.
Appalachia.
You need to
sorry.
say things like
I
that.
apologize.
Apology
so
accepted.
nowadays, with their iPhones, they're going to get one on camera before long. If they exist,
Seriously?
somebody's going to get one on camera before long.
Well,
Everybody has trail cams and
cams
hunting
everywhere.
cams.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they're out there, we will know soon.
Have you seen a porcupine? Because I love porcupines. I would have one as a pet
I never have.
tomorrow.
right?
What?
But
He's
you
pointing to
don't
shoot his
you
little things
don't
at
see
you.
them
I
in
almost
Garrett
stepped on
County
one.
as often. Like you see them in Savage River,
never
but like
seen one.
as soon as you go into Pennsylvania, especially like upstate PA. They're everywhere. They're on the side of the
We
road.
were-
Like you see porcupines everywhere, and I'm so jealous because they're so freaking cute with their little noses.
I'm just picturing
and,
you hiding under a wheelbarrow from a porcupine.
and I've just not been lucky enough to see one in Garrett County.
And
Yeah.
I've never seen a live one. Same, just on the side of the road. And I've only seen in my whole lifetime two. One just outside of Accident the other week, and then one up
Really?
on Bloomington
Wow.
Mountain. Yeah, it's the only time I've ever seen it.
Yeah, I know.
But
so
not
I've
alive.
Not alive.
Somebody
no.
shared a video not that long ago, and they were like down near Savage River, and they shared a video of a porcupine, and they're there. Like,
Yeah.
there's animals here you have no idea,
I
but
wonder
you'll
if
never
you ran
see.
over him, would it pop your tire?
I doubt it. I doubt it.
We're holding that. We're holding that to the record.
Yeah.
Somebody hit that porcupine. I wonder what their tire
That's
looked
good.
like.
It's like you should have seen his
If he was
tire.
dead on the road,
They probably were like, "That's a big rabbit." My God.
Yeah, I mean, growing up here, I see more wildlife now than ever before.
Yeah.
well, you're outside a lot.
Well, I grew up hunting. I mean,
Okay.
I grew up. We were kicked out the door and into the forest, and particularly in the summertime. And I don't recall ever seeing a bald eagle in McHenry Cove until several years ago.
Yeah.
You'd have to go to the south end of the lake to see that. And I try to reconcile that in my own mind. It's built up. It's more developed, and now there's bald eagles hunting in
Yeah.
the cove. Yeah, get out there. You'll see things.
Do you have
It
a
is
theory?
weird,
Why would that be?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe because they're
Wild.
protected.
Maybe-
There's probably more bald eagles now than there
Yeah,
was
maybe.
40 years
Maybe
ago.
we're
Good
still less populated than other places.
Right.
Oh, good point.
Maybe the fishing is so good at Deep Creek. They're like, I was watching TV and
you
I
go.
saw that there's giant pike, and all the bald eagles tell each other, and then they all fly down here.
There's a field near my house, and I've seen a bald eagle. I'm assuming it's the same one. And then in that field 4 or 5 times, he'll
Right.
fly down and eat deer and stuff like that. Dead deer, obviously. But no, I've seen him. I've never seen one in his nest there, but I've seen him just sitting there chilling.
Yeah.
And it's always cool. And you'll notice if you're ever in Garrett County and there's no reason for somebody who stopped on a road, pay attention why they're stopped because they're probably taking a picture of something
Something
cool.
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a bear, there's an eagle.
Somebody gets out of their car to take. a
Don't
picture of
blow
there.
your horn and drive by.
yeah,
Give
yeah.
them a
So
picture.
many
Take a
people
selfie.
get out of their car to take pictures of bears.
Yeah. I whistled at one, Mike, but I was like you. I was in my truck and I knew I was going to be fine. He was a big boy too, and he was sitting there and he was eating his watermelon. And I've got a picture of it on my phone. I mean, he was just what was the one song? It was a song about watermelon a couple years ago. It was super
Yeah,
popular.
Watermelon Sugar
Yeah,
High.
it was like
Yeah, yeah.
Watermelon Sugar High was popular at the time. And he was just sitting there eating this actually near Fork Run. And I was just whistled at him and started singing Watermelon Sugar High to him. And he could have cared less. It was
He's
cool.
like,
He was just-
But if you were Harry Styles, he would have stopped dead.
I mean, Harry Styles would appreciate the way I was singing. It's on video if you want to see it.
Hey, we got you on camera singing. You're not bad, John.
Was it Saturday?
No, it was
Oh, thank
No.
God. Okay,
no,
thank
no, no,
God.
no. It was.
You sang Old Town Road that one time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you nail it?
I don't
He
know.
did. It
I
wasn't
don't
bad.
know.
I was doing pretty good at the party Saturday, and I didn't pass too far where I shouldn't have gone. But Russell was definitely buying me 15-year Whistle Pig shots,
Ooh.
drinks.
Ugh.
They were really good. I remember I hit around 4, and I was like, man, I probably got one more of me in this, and I hit about 5 drinks, and that was about all I needed. But that was a good time. So no, I didn't sing Saturday.
I watched them bring that bottle out new, and I watched them put it away empty.
The 15-year Whistle Pig.
You guys crushed it.
Russell at the end of the night told me
Literally.
how special of a gift that was to me. I didn't realize how cool I was. Thank you, Russell. That was very very amazing drinks.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been to Pond Run since they reopened,
Have you been to Pond Run? Oh, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
actually there last night for a friend's birthday
oh
party.
my gosh,
It's incredible.
there you go. Well, yeah, it's amazing. It's a fun new place to go.
Yep.
So speaking of hunting season, didn't you used to go there the first Thursday after hunting season opened all the time?
To Pond Run?
Yeah.
That would have been probably a little bit before my time going there. You know, I remember the old Pond Run, but
This is years and years and years ago. They used to have strippers in the night after hunting season opened. You didn't know this?
I've heard these stories, and
Yeah.
I've heard of other hunting cabins around the area that have similar activities.
Yeah, we're going to tiger claw on the details, but I will confirm it is true. It is true. Not anymore.
Hey.
Those days are over.
Yep, much different.
So you've kind of spent your life outside, and this job pretty much. I don't know if you say you fell into it or what, or if it was a calling, but it sounds like it was the perfect job for you.
I enjoy it. You know, I graduated from West Virginia University in 2018 with a geoscience degree.
Let's
I'd-
go.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd gone back to school to finish up some stuff, and the market wasn't great for jobs. So I'm able to paint for myself. So I went back to Utah for about 9 months and was just rafting and volunteering and painting in Utah. And then I got a phone call from Garrett Trails saying, we're going to have a position open. Are you interested to come back and interview? And so I came back and interviewed and got the position, and I love it. I love seeing people get outside.
Yeah.
And I love seeing them have the resources available to do that, particularly as we try to put more attention towards people with adaptive needs, people with disabilities. You know, I sit in parking lots and I just watch activities, how people move around a parking lot, what might their needs be. And one thing I don't see is a lot of adaptive rec users. And so we're working hard to change that. In Fork Run, we have funding in place to do a 1 mile gravel trail on top right out of the parking lot. So already using the red and yellow existing trails, but they'll be widened. They'll be packed gravel or some type of natural surface so that an all-terrain wheelchair, people
where
with
you're going with it. Okay.
yeah, people with limited mobility, but they still want to walk in the woods.
Gotcha. That's really cool.
They can use that. Now that'll all go through the county. That'll all go through county reviews as well as public comment before any development happens. But I was really proud of that, to work with the county and get that money in place that we can do that. We were able to secure a grant from the Tucker Community Foundation in Tucker County to get an all-terrain wheelchair.
Oh, very
It's a
cool.
grit wheelchair. We have it up on our Facebook page. We just donated it to the Deep Creek Lions Club
Okay.
because they have an adaptive skiing program in place.
Yeah.
They take care of the Meshack Browning Trail system in McHenry, which is also county property. And they're trying to develop some of that into a more disabled-friendly park. So
So if you come here on vacation and you're in a wheelchair and you want to go on these trails, you can contact the Lions Club and they'll rent you or let you borrow whatever all-terrain wheelchair?
yeah, so basically what we're trying with now is sort of a soft pilot program.
Yeah.
So if they contact us, I'll call the Lions Club and we'll work together to get you over there to try the chair.
Yeah.
Whether that becomes something bigger in the future, I couldn't say. You know, it really depends on their
Really
resources.
neat idea. Yeah.
Yeah, but people will travel hundreds of miles to see. It's called the Grit Freedom Chair.
Wow.
It's you propel it with a gear reduction arm handles
Yeah.
and steer it that way. And people will travel hundreds and hundreds of miles to try one.
That's really cool.
To see if they want to purchase one. So in some way, it also is drawing people into our county that might not come here.
Yeah.
You know, so we're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing for access for people of different abilities.
Are there other trails already that are kind of accessible, like handicap friendly?
Certainly within state parks.
Okay.
You know, you're going to find that within the state parks where the trails don't have a lot of pitch to them right out of the park office and things like that. Town trails. Oakland has a great town trail system.
Oh, yeah. The one that goes to the glades from the park is super nice.
Yeah, you know, it's great. And then Accident. I love Accident's town trail system. It's very small, but it's a really nice place to go out and just spend some time walking around their loop. Friendsville's Community Park. Also has paved loops around it as well as the roads.
That park blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone, that was all, I would imagine, county and town working together to make that happen years ago. We grew up playing Little League behind the elementary school, ball field there. And so to see the kids now have these multiple ball fields in places where they can do that stuff. But, you say, okay, so you can take your wheelchair to this place. Is that really serving your need, though? Or are we just giving you the best option we can give you?
Right. Absolutely.
It's about taking that idea and flipping it and saying, no, you're going to be served first. We're going to make sure that you have a place to park. We're going to make sure that you have a place to take someone. Like I had a woman call me recently saying...
I'm very glad you guys think about this. I would have never thought about it. That's great.
Yeah, we had a woman call recently, and she inquired. She has a daughter with CP, and she has her in an adult stroller.
Okay.
Okay, so where can she go? So I was able to direct her to some places. We start with some town trails. I told her in Kitzmiller, the River Walk is absolutely beautiful, particularly in the fall. Walks right along the Potomac River from town. It's paved, goes over to the old elementary school and has an arboretum path. So she can spend some time there. And, we want to help towns create more of that.
I've noticed a lot of the billboards around recently have changed to advertising the Kitzmiller trails and stuff like that. I think a lot of people, obviously everybody knows about Deep Creek, okay?
Right.
They don't know about the river path in Kitzmiller. They
Right.
don't know about the trail down in Friendsville. They don't even know about Fork Run. So I
Right.
did notice, I guess the county or the state's behind you guys advertising that some, and it is on billboards and is getting some more attention.
Yeah, and so I believe that most of that marketing campaign is going through the chamber.
Okay.
And possibly the Mountain Maryland Gateway to the West Heritage area, which I'm a board member on. Garrett Trails doesn't do any advertising like that. We try to put most of our marketing money behind Facebook ad programs.
Yeah.
Because we're one staff member, and we're able to hire a Facebook contractor that gets us out in front of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. That's sort of where we focus. But yeah, there's a big push. And with, COVID coming and everyone being affected by it, even towns are saying, wait a minute, maybe we never thought of ourselves as a trail destination. That doesn't mean that they can't.
It's cool that you have a history of Park City too, and I think it is Park City. Isn't Park City the town that their motto is "You will always be within 1 mile of a trail"?
I've heard that that's how they sort of do their transportation planning there.
Yeah, how cool is that? And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I have to Google it to make sure I'm right. But in Park City, no matter where you live, you're going to be within 1 mile of a trailhead,
Right.
and they've actually realized how important that is to growth and heritage and kids and being outdoors. And I don't know, we have a long way to go to get there, but you're definitely taking a step in the right direction.
Yeah, we remember when we sat down and we were talking the other day, I told you I wanted to hit every trail
Right.
in Garrett County, and you were like, well, let me just show you what that looks like.
That's my next question.
So
How many are there?
Yeah,
what is it?
Or do you have an idea? Is there a way to narrow it down where you can answer the question, like how many miles of trail?
I'm just going to say hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. On our webpage, there's a tab called the Ultimate Garrett County Adventure Map, and this was developed by a local named Chris Nichols.
Oh, I've seen it. It's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, he's actually our point of contact with the Lions Club. He's a member of the club and a cartographer. So he did a Google open source map that anyone can go to, fishing points of interest, trails, and he listed every possible piece of trail that you could think of. So go to garretttrails.org, go up to the trail button, and you'll see Ultimate Garrett County Adventure Map. We also give those away. He was kind enough to donate some of those to us, like when Garrett Trails volunteered at the Dragon Boat Festival this year.
Yeah.
And we were able to take his donation and include it in gift baskets there, for people to see his trail maps. So
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
Really cool.
How close are we to connecting into the Gap Trail?
It's still a long ways off, So if people that don't know, that what we've been working on for years is called the Eastern Continental Divide Loop, ECDL, and that is to connect Garrett County to the Gap Trail, the Great Allegheny Passage in Pennsylvania.
And that goes that goes from Pittsburgh
to
right?
DC.
All the way down. It connects in with the C&O Canal, and then goes all the way down to DC,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so the goal has been to connect Garrett County to that trail by trail, and that would be done in Myersdale, so north of Grantsville, and Confluence, north of Friendsville, because Gap goes through both of those.
Yeah.
So right now, to answer your question, the trail effectively starts at Chestnut Ridge in Grantsville, which is I-68. So there's no plan, there's no real idea yet of how you go from there north to Myersdale yet. And we don't really focus on that too much because there's a lot of highway construction that's
But
been
you
done.
can get from here to Grantsville?
You can get from Route 495 to Grantsville currently.
And that's the Meadow Mountain Trail?
The Meadow Mountain Trail.
Okay.
Yeah, which is where the Eastern Continental Divide is. It's on Meadow Mountain.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the name for the trail loop. And so it's a loose idea where you say, okay, we've got the Meadow Mountain Trail built out, for about 12 miles down to 495. Can we connect it to Deep Creek State Park somehow? That may be a possibility.
What's the way to get there now? Because I know you have to cross a
there
couple
isn't.
roads. Okay.
And once you get to 495 on the Meadow Mountain Trail, it's effectively ended.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I don't recommend hiking or walking 495 to get
No.
to the state park. There's really no shoulder. But then, so you do it in pieces. You say, okay, what can we connect now that hopefully the gaps can be filled in later? The town of Oakland, we've been working with them as well as some private property owners to see if we can connect Oakland to Harrington Manor.
Very cool.
Right.
That would be great.
But
It's
that's
only-
one thing that really slows you guys down, like finding the property to put the trails on, because obviously you've got to find landowners who are willing to do it.
It becomes just a matter of reaching out to people, to the landowners, seeing if they're interested, meeting with them. Because at the end of the day, the characteristics of the trail across their property have to suit them. And we're fortunate that people are more forward-thinking these days than in the past. In the past, people would think a trail, it brings crime, litter, whatever the case may be, whatever people just happen to bring with them.
Sure.
But over the years, what we've discovered is that well-used trails, well-maintained trails, you see all that go away. You see less litter. You don't see people using it for nefarious reasons. And you have a lot more people using the trail, which they become your sort of on-the-ground caretakers.
And most of those people are going to pick up a piece of trash.
They
Like,
pick
if
it
you're
up.
that type of person, you're going to see it and pick it up and take it with you.
When I first moved to Friendsville, I heard people would just be like, "Oh, the Kendall Trail."
Right.
The Kendall Trail looks great, pretty much all the time. I mean, and maybe that's one of those examples.
It is, and when I was growing up, it had a bad reputation.
Okay.
Now there might be other people in the area that don't know that reputation or disagree with me, but in general, the Kendall Trail, don't go all the way to the top in the dark or something like
Oh my
that.
gosh.
Yeah, but in general, why would you don't really want to go to like any trail in the dark?
Well, I mean, I feel like the
Unless you're
further the trail,
experienced.
the less likely you are to hike it at dark.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
good point.
But since the town of Friendsville has been behind with the DNR to get the trail parking developed there for Kendall, as well as some remediation on it, the trail gets more use. I hike it several times a year. I've loved it, hiking it since I was a kid, and you just don't see those issues. So that's sort of when we work with property owners, we try to allay those fears and say, that that's not an issue anymore. I'm not saying no one will ever drop a piece of trash on your property,
But
but if there are problems, then we're here to mitigate those problems.
at least it's not just a trail through the woods with nobody maintaining it.
Right.
Are there a lot of to go from like Friendsville down to like Swallow Falls? Do you have to cross a lot of private property in order to do that, or how does that work?
So effectively, to go from Swallow Falls to Friendsville, which would be traveling north on the river, River Right at Swallow Falls has a 2-mile trail that already goes down it. It's just called the Fisherman's Trail, Swallow Falls Fisherman's Trail. And that ends in the power plant property, the hydroelectric plant property.
Okay.
So you would need permission from the hydroelectric plant to go up above their plant and then come back down to where Hoy's Run comes into Oakland Sang Run. And I'm going to say all this hoping maybe some people out there get on their map and look at it. And from Hoy's Run...
We'll post a picture, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Hoy's Run, you're now traveling north on Oakland Sang Run Road. There's plenty of terrain there, which is DNR property. You do come to private property at a certain point, and that's private down to Sang Run State Park. So then it would become a pedestrian trail on Oakland Sang Run Road for 2 miles. Now that's reasonable to look at because it's not a heavy truck traffic road.
Right.
Gotcha.
You can work with the county to expand some things, to do some certain changes. Then you can safely put people down there to Sang Run State Park.
But even that, nothing happens fast. Like, I mean, you're talking.
That's part of the spot that they were earmarking,
Right.
right? That
And-
they kind of the yacht corridor in
Right.
its own thing.
Right.
But then they also had a tiny section earmarked just to connect Sang Run and Swallow Falls, right?
Right. And so
Okay.
you're right. So in the past, this idea has been around for a long time. And when I first came into the position 3 years ago, I thought, if I live long enough, maybe I'll see pieces.
You'll
of
make
it.
90.
Would
You're
would
gonna
this
make 90.
would that be part of the Eastern Continental Divide Loop?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And that would be the leg that takes you, say, from Oakland as your southern pivot point to Friendsville. And then from Friendsville, how do you get to Confluence, Pennsylvania? And so last year, the General Assembly put into the DNR budget $4.7 million. And we gave a cost opinion on the trail from Oakland to Friendsville. The legislatures chose Swallow Falls to Friendsville to start with. And they ran that through their assembly legal, went ahead and put the money in. Now, where that will go, we can't say.
Right.
There's a new DNR secretary that just took office. And first of all, we no one ever imagined that you would see $4.7 million be applied to any trail project in Garrett
Sure.
County.
It's huge.
So there's a lot of groundwork that'll have to be done, and that'll be done by the DNR. They're the landowner. And so they'll likely hire a company to do a feasibility study, an inventory, because there are things between Sangaron and Friendsville specifically that you want to take care to protect. There are some state and federal endangered species in there, also threatened species. Now, I grew up in there. I grew up in Sangaron, and so being in the yacht corridor was just commonplace for us. We used to walk from Sangaron to Friendsville or Friendsville to Sangaron after church, which is 9 hearty miles.
Yeah.
We were fortunate back then to have.
You're showing me a picture of like the
You're
little
going,
where
like,
you gotta like
straight
crawl
uphill.
under and back up.
Yeah, we were fortunate when I was young to have permission to go across what's called flying off rocks on River Right. So it's a logging road, goes up to the top of the hill. You can have lunch right back down into Friendsville. Right now, between Sangaron and Friendsville, if there's 9 to 10 miles between those two places, you're looking at maybe 8 miles of existing logging road on River Right.
Okay.
And anyone can go on our website again to the trail page. Scroll down, we have types of public land in Garrett County. And because this became such a hot button issue last year, we tried to get information out to say what was actually there. If you were to read a newspaper at the time, you would think that you're walking into a completely pristine, protected wilderness.
Yeah.
It's not the case.
Yeah.
Now, again, I grew up there. My affinity for this location is unparalleled. But at the same time, there's 8 miles of logging road that currently exist.
Gotcha.
And there's sections of those logging roads that you could, if it was legally allowed, drive your truck on.
Gotcha.
So what the characteristics of a trail between those locations will look like will ultimately be decided by the DNR's feasibility study, public comment to the DNR before any of that moves forward.
So the state of Maryland is the largest landowner in
Right.
Garrett County, and that land is managed by the Department of Natural Resources. So there's a million channels, and I mean, you can argue it both ways. The DNR is pretty good to work with and very conservative.
Right. Yeah, we have a great relationship working with the DNR, open lines of communication. And, when they look at something like this, they want to say, how can we do it right if we're going to do it? That's the position I believe that they would take first. It seems to be from the last secretary's letter. We've been allocated the funds, but we still have to do due diligence. So I don't expect to see any movement on anything. And this is just my own general supposition from working in this field. I don't expect to see any movement on anything anytime soon except a feasibility study, which who knows how long that could take.
Just dedicating that amount of money to it is great. And then we talked about it in one of the other episodes. Development's not easy, and you don't want to do it. If you develop something, no matter what it is, a housing complex or a trail system, if you do it too fast, you're going to mess up. So it's just where it seems painstakingly long, how hard can it be to build a trail? It's actually very hard to build the trail right. And hopefully, I think that's the path you guys are going down.
So that 4.7 million, is that something that's going towards like the Meta Mountain Trail project that you were talking about earlier? Is it divvied up, or is there totally different separate grants, or?
It's so that money is already earmarked, as Krista said, for Swallow Falls to Sangaron.
Okay, got it.
But I'm not an expert in the legalities of how the DNR is allowed to spend their money.
Well, if it's not feasible, they'll move it somewhere else.
Yeah, I
Right.
could guess, but I
right.
couldn't say.
We'll guess. Yeah.
But you have a lot of different user groups in that canyon.
Yeah.
And it is important to try and reconcile everything with everyone so it meets the most needs with the least impact. There are already multiple commercial whitewater operations in that canyon. There is at least one commercial guided hiking tour company that operates there. And as far as I've ever been able to tell, they all operate ethically, and they put a lot of their time into making sure it's protected, that it stays good for people to be there. We have other user groups that want access to the canyon, say people that want to walk or perhaps bike. They can't do the whitewater, but they still want to see it. The Garrett Trails Board believes strongly that people should have access to the public land that they paid for.
Sure.
But they should do it safely
Absolutely.
and within reason. I mean, we were talking before we started recording that, it's all about sustainability. It's not really just the creation of the trail. It's how are you going to sustain it? How do we keep it, have it be the least impactful on the environment?
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many factors in it because you want it, like John said, you want to develop it. You want to do it right. But then you also want it to like have a lasting impact in a positive way and not be just like a glaring red, flag on the side of the hill.
Well, and there is a heritage to trails in Garrett County in the sense that as I was growing up, I came up in the 80s under some old timers that would talk about walking from Sangaron to Friendsville to see family, just as my father taught us to do when we were young. My father proposed to my mother on what's called, the rafters call it Weight Rock, which
Yeah.
is where Gap Run comes into the river. We call it Chub Rock, named after the type of fish you typically catch off of it. And he hiked her back there. I mean, it might have been 2019 or something. It's where he grew up hunting, and he literally hiked her back there one day just to see if she could do it. And when
Wow.
and when she could, he proposed to
So
her.
she was afraid to say
gosh.
no. She goes, yes, please don't leave me here.
That's like the locked door trick in a Bronx Tale.
Well, and she ended up becoming someone that fell in love with the place as well.
Your mom's not from around here, or
Originally from Pittsburgh, but
Oh,
her
okay.
family had a small, back in the 50s and 60s. It started out, I think, as army tents.
Yeah.
Then it became a mobile home, then a
Wow.
cabin. That
Here?
kind of, yeah, right on Lakeshore Drive.
Oh, no kidding. I
Yeah.
don't know that story.
Yeah, her dad would drive them down from Pittsburgh. He was a wallpaper hanger, owned his own company. And he would drive 9 kids
Yeah.
from Pittsburgh down here, and they would go be in army tents for
Oh
the
my
week or
gosh.
weekend.
that's awesome.
She grew up working at Double G Ranch,
Yeah.
doing trail rides.
Oh, very cool.
The other aunts worked at ice cream, Humberson's Ice Cream, which is where Archie's is now. Archie's Barbecue is now.
Cool.
So feel free to tiger claw this, but I feel like you'd be amazing after just sitting down and talking with you the other day. You would be a fantastic historian of this area. But you had mentioned, and feel free to either say, "Hey, don't bring this up. I'll cut it out,"
Right.
or put a plug in. You had mentioned people who are actively like throwing away old signs and things like that, and you'd said to me like, "Hey, look, I would love to have them."
Yeah.
And kind of make a somewhat of a museum someday.
It's been this fanciful idea I've had in my head for years. Growing up in the 90s, as development really picked up pace in Deep Creek Lake, what you saw were a lot of hand-built, hand-lettered signs,
Yeah.
particularly coming out of Oakland, Deer Park signs.
Yeah.
And, the craftsmanship behind these are so beautiful. In fact, we still have some in the gleanings that I see them go as things change over time, which they naturally do, go in dumpsters or things of that nature. And I just think it means nothing to anyone else, but I would love to have that
No,
sign.
that'd be super cool to have.
You know.
If I find one, I'll send you a picture, but I'm keeping it.
I have. My family's business was contracted to take down the Panoramic Motel, which
Okay.
is where the college dorms are now.
Sure.
Years
a lot of
and
people
years
don't
ago.
know that, honestly. If you bring
Yeah.
it up for us, good
Yeah,
story.
years and years ago. And while we were there taking it down, I found a $100 bill behind the checking counter, which was nice.
Okay.
Wow.
And then I also took on the outside of the hotel, they had these hand cut signs of skiers. So hand cut out of plywood and hand painted. Nothing spectacular, but I made sure that they went with me, and they've been in my garage ever since. Just because I like seeing them. Maybe I guess this is getting older too. You like seeing the things from your
Remind
youth
you.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure. And something we discussed is that, businesses in this area are such a huge part of the culture around here. I mean, because we've always had people coming in and then figuring out how to serve the needs of the people who come here, and then also the locals too.
Right.
I mean, because some of the harder times of the year where it's, the winter time and things like that, where it's difficult to just get around, it means a lot, says a lot about the area, and to be able to have something like that. And you were mentioning you had an idea, which is kind of get them all together where people could see them. And I thought that I was like, that sounds like a museum. And you were like, well,
It's my
it's my basement.
yeah.
It's sort of one of those retirement ideas you have where you go, maybe
It's great.
when I have nothing else to do, I'll build a pole building and sit there every Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 1.
People
Take
forget,
$2.
too. Like, until you just brought it up, I totally forgot about the Panoramic Motel.
I've never heard of it. That was totally brand new information.
What is
And
it?
where Garrett College dorms are,
Yeah.
there was a hotel there called the Panoramic Hotel. And I remember being in there, maybe 20 rooms or something.
Maybe 20 rooms. It was a single level motel, really popular with people just coming up for a night or a day to ski.
Wow.
Quick, easy place
Who
to
owned
stay.
it? Do you know?
That I can't remember. So hopefully someone listening here will remember.
And it's where the
email me.
dorms are, not the college, but the dorms.
Approximately where
Yeah,
the
okay.
dorms or CART
In that
is. I'd
general
have to
area.
look at it.
What year did it come down?
I think we demoed that in 2004 or 5.
Oh, cool.
That's a
Okay.
guess.
Yeah.
Hey, so do you remember next to the old Tips Up building, there was this place called Beowulf's.
Yeah.
And I remember Beowulf's being like this half defunct building with a really cool sign on it that said like Beowulf's Magic Shop or something, right?
So I'm told it was defunct. I mean, it might have been open when I was a small kid.
Okay.
But by the time I was really aware of it, to ask questions, it wasn't open anymore. It was sort of falling in. But it did. It had this sort of Viking Beowulf theme to the sign,
Where was it?
It's right, if you go, it's the corner of Deep Creek Drive and Sang Run.
Oh.
Well, that sign's now in the lower level of Uno's. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
Is it really?
Yeah.
Because I've wondered
I
for
think that's the
years.
sign.
I wondered for years if it was salvaged, but I'm told that
pretty
it was
sure that's on the lower level. Who knows? I saw it. That's
So we'll find out at the dunk.
Yeah.
So I was told, if I remember correctly, it was a leather apparel shop.
I thought it was a magic shop.
What?
Well, so I'm hopeful.
Well,
that
they're the
someone-
same thing, John.
Okay.
I'm hopeful that someone that is maybe older than me or remembers it better can say whether or not that's true. I really hope it is
Like
because
for
I
biker leather.
I just can't think of a more unlikely
Let us
place
know
to
in
have
the
a leather
comments.
apparel shop than Deep Creek Lake in 1980.
Where are you going to get your chaps? Bay
Yeah.
Wolves at Deep Creek.
Right.
Hey, man, if you got good chaps, you got good chaps. What are you gonna do?
People will come for miles.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's kind of the point of this. Like we've heard a couple stories like that, and you do. People forget. Like
Yeah.
if anything, hopefully this documents some of that stuff.
But even the
sure.
cut through there at the intersection of Deep Creek Drive and Sangarun Road, as I was a kid, you couldn't get to 219. You drove, and
Yeah, you
when
were
you hit
telling
Deep
about
Creek
that.
Drive, you're
Yeah.
just looking at a giant wall of grass.
Yeah.
A big hillside from when they built the highway. You had to go left up towards Lakeview to get on the highway, or you had to go right. I think you'd have to go all the way right to the cove to like get up the Deep Creek Drive part, or the part up to where Mosser hits. And so I remember them digging that out. Everyone was amazed that you could just go right through, right to 219.
Oh my god.
Where
It's incredible.
where our main office is, where the Chamber of Commerce is, and kind of Green Turtle, that used to be a big hill.
Big
And,
berm, yeah.
nobody remembers that being a big hill, but that was the hill you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll look for some photos I have. I don't want to say where I found them just because I don't want people to flood this little particular office. But there is an office here in McHenry that has photos taken of McHenry Cove from an airplane, probably in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Multiple photos. You can see where George Collins put in the beverage shop.
Yeah.
You can
I'd
see,
those.
you can see where the first putting in the road, which that plaza for us growing up at Sangarun, McHenry Plaza, my greatest dream in the world was that they finally put a sidewalk from McHenry Plaza to Sangarun so I could ride my bike out there.
Hey, it's the little things.
Yeah.
Well, huge, actually, right?
I'll dig those photos out though and share them with you guys. I don't know what you put online.
Oh,
but
that'd be
people might
so
like
cool.
seeing them.
They not to bounce backwards too
Sure.
much, but you said something a minute ago that was really, really cool, and a lot of people forget this. As a resident of the state of Maryland, those grounds you're talking about, the land you're talking about, is ours, and
Right.
people forget that. And that was kind of one of the things that makes your job happy, because or hard. That makes your job hard. there are so many of us, and how do you figure out the right thing to do for everyone? But people
Right.
forget that. Where I say Maryland is the largest landowner in the county, that's our heritage. That's what we get to use as residents. Obviously, visitors can use it too. But that's one of the things that makes your project so hard to figure out.
Yeah.
How do you appease everyone?
Well, and that was one of the motivations for Senator Edwards, as he described it to me at the time, to ask us for information about it, was that for decades he sat on those committees that determined whether or not land would be bought. And my understanding from him that he generally wasn't too much in favor of it unless we found a way for people to use it.
Gotcha.
And that was his premise to me, at least.
There's no point in owning land that nobody's going to go there.
Right.
We need to have some purpose
Right.
with it.
And, I spent a lot
Well,
of
for
time.
the survival of the population of the locals. I mean, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's got to be a reason for people to come here
Yep.
and, for lack of a better word, spend money, right? I mean, to enjoy the area.
Well, we've talked about it before. Like, I'll notice we've talked about it before, when we get in funks and we just kind of are, in our normal daily life routine funk, that's when those things come in handy for us for living here.
Right.
Like you've got to remind yourself, oh, I need to go out hiking this afternoon. I need to do whatever. Hey, before we run out of time, you've got to talk about e-bikes. So you've mentioned that all these trails are non-motorized trails.
Right.
E-bikes are a new reality.
They are.
And e-bikes are nasty, like not nasty in a good way.
Are
like
they
fun.
considered motorized?
That's my question.
So there's no, the only
Well, there's different
agency,
classes
the only
of,
agency in the
okay.
county that has a solid policy on it is state parks. So Maryland state parks, as far as I know, still don't allow e-bikes, period.
Okay.
Okay. County property has never really been an issue. Fork Run, I see e-bikes in Fork Run. We're really, you hope that people don't abuse being able to use something like that by bringing in a full throttle bike.
So even tell the
Okay.
listener, there's different classes to
Right.
mountain biking. Now there's a pedal bike that's
Right.
all human energy. Then there is an assisted e-bike that assists you to pedal. Like say you're going up a hard
Right.
mountain, you need an assist, but you're not going to go up it so fast. And then there's class whatever that's just wide open. You can go 40 miles an hour without pedaling at all.
Those are
Yeah.
the types of e-bikes you use in D.C.,
Right.
not in state park.
The first time I got on one, I was like, "There's no way this is going to be fun." It was amazing.
Yeah.
And
They are a lot of fun, but they are a little like you You kind of lose control quick if you have never ridden one before.
Well,
I think.
your real thing, and where I'm leading into this, because I don't know what your solution is going to be to this. If you're at Fork Run and you're in the back mountains, you get a single track, okay?
Right.
And say I'm at the top of a hill and I'm coming down, I can go 20 or 30 miles an hour because I'm going downhill. On a regular bike, say Mike's coming up, he's going to be going 2 or 3 miles an hour. He's coming up. We have time to avoid each other.
Right.
We have time to do whatever. If I'm coming down at 20 or 30 miles an hour and Mike's going up at 20 or 30 miles an hour in a single track, get some issues,
Right.
So I don't know.
So far, I've not seen a full throttle in Fork Run, which there may be someone taking them back
you wouldn't
there.
be able to catch up with them.
No, and not having an official policy yet in that recreation area.
When they're so quiet,
It's
you're
mostly
probably
about
not gonna
talking
know.
to someone and saying,
Yeah.
listen, you have to look at the
about
trail users
education.
here.
Yeah.
Right. And we have people that come to us and say, Josh, e-bikes have extended my athletic life.
I think they're great.
Right.
Like, okay, so it'll allow you when you're 70 years old
Right.
to go out with your 22-year-old grandson and
Can
keep
you
up.
do like crawl over rocks and like everything, or
Just
it's mostly
imagine-
for flat stuff?
You
No, no,
still
no.
need. There's still technical
You still
difficulty
gotta be a good
to it.
rider.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need to know what
Okay,
you're
well that's what I mean. Like, I mean, you can
It's
like
just the power. It gives you.
Okay.
It gives you an assistance with the power aspect.
okay.
So our recommendations so far have just been to do pedal assist. If there's a policy design, pedal assist seems to be reasonable and okay. Full throttle is, shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Pedal assist, I think, is the right way to do it because pedal assist is going to allow me to keep up with my kids as I get older, right?
Yeah.
But it's also going to make sure I don't go too fast. And I was kind of answering your question for you. The answer is education, because if you don't think about it, right? If I just sit down and don't think about it, and I go buy myself a full throttle e-bike and I go out to Fork Run and I go up this mountain at 40 miles an hour, I'm going to have a blast, and I'm not going to realize how dangerous that is. And it's just education. Like,
Yeah.
why would you, if you don't think it through, you don't realize how bad of an idea it is until.
And don't offer them as rentals.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I think I'd say it's safe to say that e-bikes are here to stay.
Oh no,
Yeah, yeah,
and their use is
absolutely.
going to become more and more prolific. I had someone this year. I'm preparing for the Garrett County Grand Fondo in June 17th, which is our largest fundraiser. And I had someone email and saying, "Can I enter an e-bike?"
Whoa.
And I thought, well,
That's
certainly.
cheating. Wait.
Well, now, so I thought about this and looked up other fondos, and there's various ways to do it. Now, the reality is,
you can enter, you can't win.
well, they'd be in their own class.
They'd be in their own
Okay.
class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We would ask them to self-designate for us. Tell us
Okay.
you have an e-bike, please.
Got it.
Because
Yeah.
last year, when we had the return of the Fondo from the pandemic, there were e-bikes that entered, and real hardcore riders will come to you afterwards and say, that guy was on an e-bike, that person on an e-bike. Now, I'm not an avid road cyclist myself, but I started looking into it, and there are real issues. For instance, e-bikes, because of the way that they can get ahead of groups, they can interfere with groups that are working together to draft or things of that nature. So they have to have some type of consideration for that. Mostly what I said to the person was, you're welcome to enter the e-bike. Please just let me know that you're doing it. No full throttle. And keep in mind that, say, the Diabolical Double, which is the hardest event, is 126 miles around the county on a Saturday with 16,000 plus feet of vertical climb. Your e-bike's not going to make it.
Oh, good
That's
point.
a really
He's gonna
good
run out of
point.
time.
Your e-bike is
It's not going to make
you're
it.
gonna have to stop and charge.
Yeah. So I think for like the Fondo this year, what we'll likely see is
Could you imagine
Very
they bust out their
Tesla.
little power pack in their backpack and try
I can't imagine it,
Oh, yeah,
actually.
yeah, for sure. Somebody, yeah.
But we're welcoming them to any class this year. But what I think we'll likely see is Garrett's Greatest 25, the 25 miler, the 44 miler, which
Yeah.
is mostly it's flatter around the lake. And I'm excited for that because that opens that lower distance up to people that might have not been able to do it without a pedal assist.
I've seen and ridden e-bike mountain bikes.
Mm.
I've never seen a road bike e-bike. Is it hard to tell? Like on an e-bike mountain bike, you can kind of tell. They're the fatter
Beefy
frames,
frame.
and you can tell. Can you tell on a road bike?
You know, it's interesting because, again, not being an expert in road cycling, but a lot of the bikes,
Cycling, did it again.
a lot of the bikes that I see at the event have a mountain bike style frame.
Okay.
We have I forget what the big tires are called now. All the
Fat
sudden.
tires?
Fat tires.
Fat
Yeah, yeah.
tires.
There are people that enter fat tires, which
Oh, really?
I think they're
You're going to go
lunatics.
100 miles on a fat tire.
I think they're lunatics, but they do.
Wow, they're
mean, if it's an
torturing
e-bike,
themselves.
you know.
Or, yeah. You know, but I could even argue that e-bikes are good for you or can make. So one of the issues you have if you go mountain biking, you're going to go out and you're going to really work out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean it's tough, right? Sometimes you may not want to. You may want to go out and kind of work out,
Right.
and that's what the e-bikes will allow you to do.
Right.
I do think
You just
they're
want to
here stay.
enjoy it and not take 3
Absolutely,
hours
right.
to hike, 6 miles.
And it allows you
Yeah.
to hang out with your family. Because if you're going on a family biking trip, there are some people going to be better than others.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
going to happen.
For sure.
Hey, I didn't know you guys sponsored the Fondo and the 100s and all that stuff. Tell us what it is, because they're pretty amazing races. I didn't know.
I've been waiting 12 episodes to ask this question.
Oh, my bad.
What
Mike.
is the Grand Fondo?
We had it in our.
No, I didn't.
Yes, he did. He did.
The Garrett County Grand Fondo, it was developed by a local cyclist as a way to get money generated towards, I believe it was a Melanoma Foundation at the time. I hope I have that correct. And the
I
event,
think Savage Man and Fondo both did the melanoma.
Okay.
It was, I forget the foundation, but yeah.
yeah, and so, but at a certain point in time, the event sort of got transferred to Garrett Trails as a fundraiser for us. It was absent for a couple of years because of COVID. It came back last year. But basically what it is it's a cycling event, not a race. You're not timed from beginning to finish. But what you are timed on are the 7 King of the Mountain climbs. So we've designated 7 hills in the county that you'll encounter depending on what event you're in, and you'll be timed on that climb. So we only do timing uphill just for safety and for our own peace of mind. But, you have people that ride 44-miler, you'll have people that ride the 60, the 100 plus, and then again the diabolical double, which is 126 miles. The double takes you from Garrett College that morning to Friendsville, to Kaiser's Ridge, to Barton.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. They're out there. And we even have cutoff times for some of these where a support van, I'll get a phone call, Josh, they're 300 yards away, but it's about to turn the cutoff time. And we let the riders know, you can get in the van with us now and we can take you back, or you ride unsupported for the remainder of the day.
Oh, wow.
And we have to do that because, even last year we had some of the double riders come in at, I think, 9:20 that evening.
Wow.
It's a big day for people.
So talk about the 7 hills, because isn't it one of the last one, Overlook Pass? I mean, Overlook Pass is a steep road to drive up.
No, the biggest one is Michael's Hill coming out of Barton. That's a big one. That's a huge climb. And then there's a hill called Killer Miller.
Yeah.
So that's been unofficial over the years, but we're actually going to try to get that in as a KOM this year.
Okay.
And, the event draws people of all types. It draws people
What's KOM?
King of the Mountain.
Okay.
And we have KOM and QOM, Queen of the Mountain, just for who has the fastest times on the climbs. But it draws in Olympic caliber athletes, national team riders that are always looking for something to continue training with. It draws in just normal people that are a little bit off. And I say that lovingly to them because they really do punish themselves on some of these
very
rides.
masochistic.
I know a lot of people who have done it, and we have a couple really avid cyclists in the office, Kellyanne and Jimmy,
Right.
and they talk about Killer Miller.
No
and
offense, Kellyanne, sorry.
some of that goes through Savage Man, right? There's a little bit of repetition over that. Do they do Killer Miller for Savage Man?
I don't think they do.
Killer
Did
Miller
they?
was in Savage
Okay,
Man.
because I was
Yeah.
never extremely familiar with Savage
Some
Man.
so there's some of similar elements, but they say it's literally one of the. I mean, Jimmy came on the podcast a couple weeks ago and said, it's literally some of the hardest cycling you're gonna have as far as elevation and it's just crazy. It's just
Well,
right here.
You said the Grand Fondo is 16,000 feet of elevation?
Yeah, you're going to do
I didn't know
16,500 feet of elevation
That's
change.
crazy.
If you go to GarrettCountyGrandFondo.org, you can go to the rides tab, and we actually have them all in Ride with GPS where you can drag your cursor around the route and see the elevation change on an elevation
I
map.
love
So
in
cool.
mid-June because all of a sudden when you're going down Shingle Camp, the little the paint on the pavement shows
Starts
up.
showing up.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys start marking it, and I'm like, "Oh, it's Grand Fondo."
So I
time."
didn't know what it was, and Mandy and I were coming home from dinner one night, and there's a guy with a car behind him on the side of the road, and it's dark out,
Right.
and I'm like, what is this? But I obviously didn't. I know now, but
Did
Yeah.
you grow up with Lee Collins, my brother-in-law?
Yeah, Lee and I were in school together from preschool till graduation day.
So I would
So
think they
he's-
know each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's I knew you guys
a
grew up
good
together. That was for the show. So Lee is one of those people who's insanely athletic
Right.
and likes torturing himself. He was doing Savage Man. And that's how I know Killer Miller was on it. Natalie was little, and he was coming up Savage Man. He flew in. He rode my road bike, which I think he's the only one that ever rode it. Anyway, he was coming to Killer Miller, and he popped a wheelie on purpose.
That makes
Came
sense.
up Killer Miller.
Yeah.
Popping a wheelie, one of the hardest hills to bike up,
Right.
just to show off to my 4-year-old daughter at the time. And that's how good of athletes some of these people are.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not positive I could bike up Killer Miller. This dude popped a wheelie.
Well, I want everyone
He's
to know
a
that.
dad now, so he probably can't anymore. That was a long
I
time.
don't
If
buy
you're
that at
listening-
all.
If you're listening, Lee, I want to see it now.
I bet he can still do it now.
Probably can.
But we do. We have people that sign up for one event, and the day they show up, they say, listen, training wasn't right where I want it to be or whatever. Can I do the lower one? Absolutely. We'll move you around so you can do what you need to do to finish it safely.
Yeah.
So we had 600 and 54 riders last year.
That's so amazing.
654.
Yeah. Yeah, the largest I think was when the former director Ashley was here. She did over 800.
That's wild.
So
But you do go up Overlook Pass at one point, right? Like that's a pretty famous, and that's pretty early on, I guess. Is that the first hill?
That's basically the first real hill.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's the first one. That's where you start.
Yeah, because you
Well,
started
they
at
start
the
at
college.
Oh,
yeah.
But then, up to Marshall Road, up Overlook.
So you're getting a real taste of it in your first 3 miles.
Right
You're like,
away.
oh, this is legit.
Yeah. And last year on June 18th, that Saturday, I think we were at 50 degrees in the morning
Yeah.
and 70 in the afternoon.
Oh gosh.
So they're really dealing with a lot of different things there.
Yeah, but
Kaiser's-
50 to 70 as something that's like, physically intensive, that's got to be kind of nice. I mean, 70 degrees,
yeah.
50, it's like,
I think
ooh,
the
that's
big problem
perfect.
is when they have to take their jackets off. At
For
the
sure.
start.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like, yeah, all right.
We have 6 aid stations that are manned by volunteers. So that not only is the event a fundraiser for us, we make donations to the volunteer groups. So last year at Binninger Fire Hall, a group from Crossroads Church volunteered to do the aid station, cut oranges, make sure there's PB&Js available for people. We have this huge spread at every one. And we were able to make a donation to them that they then donated to I think it's like a Smiles program, like a child's dental program in Honduras.
Yeah.
So we try to find groups like that to work with so we can take some of this, donate it to them. But it's a big fundraiser for us. In fact, the second one behind Taste of Garrett, which again hasn't made its return since COVID.
Oh, I hope it comes back. I love
yeah.
Taste
Wait,
of
wait,
Garrett.
I forget what that is.
It's so fun.
It's
that,
so
like,
fun.
restaurants?
Yeah, all
Food
like
show,
a
yeah.
lot of like
Mandy's
local
done that a couple
restaurants and
times.
stuff.
Yeah.
I think the last one was at Wisp at the lodge.
Yeah.
They've been at
it
Wisp,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, what it is we reached out to restaurant partners and they've said, look, we're still understaffed. We're still having a
Absolutely,
supply
yeah.
chain, these things. And they're really the linchpin for it because they don't
Yeah.
they donate
It's
their
in
food.
summer, right? Yeah.
It's typically in May.
Yeah.
beginning of May.
First week of May or something.
So it includes the Race Up the Face, which people love. Everyone gets in a big group.
You
and
run. You run,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
like, not on a
Face.
bike.
Not on a bike.
But I would
do it.
enjoy
It'd be
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
would totally run up it.
It's
Remind me if
it's
it
hilarious.
If it
People
happens again.
start running and then they walk.
Yeah.
No.
Quickly.
See, I've never been that guy. That's I'm always been the tortoise in the race.
Yeah, but we're trying to get
sure.
that back. I've people email me and ask me about it, and I've let them know that this year it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But we like to do Race Up the Face.
You still do that.
I
Right,
think
yeah.
that would still just be
Right.
so
Let me
fun.
know. I'd really like to do
Dude,
that.
do race
Yeah.
up the face with a beer truck up top.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and that's what we're trying to
It's
do.
like, and then have
if
a
you run up that
consume
hill,
your
you deserve an
calories that you
iPad.
just burned.
No, it's a real badge of honor for people to get to the top of Face, and I don't
Okay.
blame them because at the bottom you think, yeah, I got this, and then about halfway up you're like, oh god,
Woo,
I've made
you
a
hit that
mistake.
Oh, it's
steep
no
part.
joke, man.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I hiked down to the top of Face in
Yeah.
the summer, and I looked down. I was like, people ski. I mean, I don't know anything about skiing, but I was like, people ski down this. That's wild. I wouldn't even want to walk down this.
I haven't seen Lee for a number of years.
Yeah.
Your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if he'd remember the same way I did it. He used to pick me up before school because he got his license first.
On his bike.
No, no, he had
You won't let the bike go.
he had this old blue Bronco 2.
Okay.
All right, and he picked
Cool.
me up. And one year on our way to school in Northern, which is outside of Accident, Maryland, they were repaving the highway, and they had about 4 miles of orange road cones up.
Okay.
And he just starts slalling them, driving
Through the
through
cones?
because there were no construction workers for miles. They just set the cones up.
He's 45 now. He won't get in trouble. Like his parents.
Generally, one of my favorite memories from high school because we were all howling with laughter as he's just going through them and through them and through them until
Treat him like ski gauge.
Yeah, and I think by the time we got to the end where there were road workers, we're back in the right lane with maybe 2 or 3 cones shoved up under the undercarriage of his Bronco dragging
so
on the
he
highway.
He didn't make it all of them.
Straight to
Okay,
school.
Okay.
And, that's what it was.
Speaking of your favorite memories, do you have we usually say what's your best Honi story, but being that you're local, you've been around, you can use Honi or your favorite going out.
I do
Garrett
actually
County.
have
Favorite Deep
my
Creek story. Or
Going
Garrett
out Deep
County
Creek?
Story. Sure, yeah. Make it a drunken story.
I think what I'll stick with is the Honi suggestion because this one really entertained me one day. A Saturday afternoon, the lawn's full of people, the boats are on the docks, tied up, people are sunbathing on their boats. And I was standing there watching the lake, and from across the lake, somewhere by the state park, a fan boat
Okay.
was screaming across the lake, like the
What's a
type they
fan
use,
boat?
the
There
type they
used
use
to
in
be
a
a
swamp.
couple of them, yeah.
Flat
Like-
bottom with the big
Oh my
fan.
God!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys come in.
He used to be out quite a bit. Like,
It's a big
yeah.
red boat. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. So they come to the Honi and they go up into the bar.
He's the only one I've ever seen. I've seen one of them here.
So they get a couple of drinks. They're there for just a little bit, and then they go back down and get in their boat to leave. And as they push the boat out of the dock, the fan is now towards the lawn and towards all the boats. I could see what they were about to do because they were laughing at each other.
Yeah.
And he opened the fan up just wide to start. And he must have filled every boat. Every person sunbathing in their boats got creamed. People in the grass beach got creamed. And I gotta be honest, I almost fell on the ground laughing so hard. I was just like, that is so messed up.
Now we know why we don't see a fan boat here anymore. Way to go, buddy.
That's hilarious.
All the heads that popped up from boats when they were sunbathing, taking naps. It was incredible. Good job, fan boat
You
guys.
probably could see the steam, boiling off their heads from the water that just got dumped on them.
One of my favorites.
Is there anything you're salty about?
Garbage. Pick it up.
Yeah,
good point.
fair enough.
Good one.
I'll be honest.
We've
it is-
had back-to-back episodes now. We're
Pack
picking
it
up
in,
your
pack it
damn
out.
garbage. Yeah.
It is literally the easiest thing to
Yeah.
not do.
Sure.
To just not throw trash on the
If
ground.
you throw trash on the ground, you're lazy. Don't put it in your pocket. Put it in your backpack.
Put it in your
There is
pocket.
no reason to throw trash on the
Yeah.
ground.
So
Weird.
and I spend so much time in state forest and around Garrett County that I see old legacy dumps.
Yeah.
I see where people are still dumping trash in streams, trash in those areas, and we want to work in some fashion in the future to see. I do at least outside of Garrett Trails to see how we can help people clean up in their communities. And then the other thing going along with trash is you are not coming back for that dog bag that you just stuck by that bush.
No.
You're not.
It's a good point.
Okay, I promise you're not. Your intentions are good, and I love you for your intentions, but
You're
you're
gonna
not
forget.
coming back for it. And
Wouldn't it be better just to not bag
I was
it?
gonna say you should just
yeah.
leave
Yeah.
At least
it.
there's not plastic.
a
right.
stick can fling poo into the forest pretty far if that's what you need to do. But I will pick it up if I come across it because that's what I'm supposed
That's
to
good.
do. But
If I was you, that's what I would be salty about. I'm not picking up dog.
Yeah. I have a special backpack that I use to pick up dog shit in the woods.
you're already carrying a chainsaw, a shovel, a backpack, gasoline, oil, and now you're like, great.
It's one of the most biodegradable things in the world, and you put it in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
But don't throw it on the ground, or if you see it on the ground, you can pick it up.
The county's actually making a good push to it too, and there are some other options for it now. The bear-proof trash containers. You've seen them. They're made out of wood, and a bear, if he really wants to, he's going to get in there.
Yeah.
My friend Craig's a welder, and he owns a welding rod. He's now making these steel bear-proof trash
Right.
containers, and I forget, he was telling me the other day, he has 100 or so of them out already. They've been testing them, and to date, a bear has not gotten in them. They're steel.
It's such a big deal because we do have so many people that come and rent, and it's an important part of our economy. I wish they knew that the landfill was just up the road.
Sure.
Because when I see bears eating trash, it's disturbing.
It's sad.
We're teaching generations these animals to do that.
Well, now by us fixing the problem, they're not going to know how to eat anymore.
Well, yeah, they'll be out of diapers for a few years, but they'll eventually
Sure.
start flipping logs again, which I've seen, by the way, dozens and dozens of diapers
Yeah, the bear.
just bitten right in the middle of
Ew,
every
bears
single one.
eat it?
Every single one bitten right in the middle.
Discarded. Come on, bears.
I mean, have you ever seen a dog?
Yeah.
They love poo.
To your your thing about the bear-proof containers, there's a story I want to tell about one of our homeowners in the Red Oaks development that
Yeah.
my family developed. Was out one day pouring bleach all over their non-bear-proof trash container. Just
Okay.
pouring bleach all over it. And I stopped.
And that's supposed to deter them?
So I stopped and said, hey, what are
Okay.
you up to? And they said, that bear's not going to get my trash again this time. I said, all right. So the next day I was driving
Is
back.
that bleach?
Yeah, he was coating all the trash in bleach in his container so the bear wouldn't eat it.
Okay.
So the next day I drove by his house. Trash was everywhere. Okay, I mean strewn everywhere. And the bleach bottle that he had emptied and then thrown in the trash the bottom of it was eaten off by the black bear.
Yeah.
And then-
That plan didn't work.
yeah, the only way to keep him out is to get that bear-proof container, take it to the dump.
We
You heard
can,
it here first, folks.
we can
Bleach won't work.
fix the bear-proof containers. That's going on.
Yeah.
It's just educating people to actually put their trash in them.
In them,
Seriously.
yes.
Yeah.
Put it in
Understood.
them.
Understood. Yeah.
Yeah. So how can people help Garrett Trails?
Well, we're always appreciative of a donation. If you'd like to make a donation to us, you can do that.
Brought you a hat.
You can do that on the website as
We'll
well.
donate you a hat.
We will make a donation.
But besides just asking for money, one of the greatest helps is for you to give us a call if you see something.
Okay.
Whatever agency manages the land, we'll get that information to them if it's not us. So, and again, we have a great relationship with state parks, with state forest, where someone says, hey, this tree was down, this was down, we want to call and get that cleaned up. We'll even offer if the state forest can't go out or state park can't go out, we'll go out, get the work done, maybe hit up a couple volunteers that are always really happy to come do that with us. So just give us information. I can't fix a problem if I don't know about it. And then your volunteer time. It's been difficult through COVID to get people to come and volunteer very often. I'm very appreciative of the ones that have signed up, very appreciative of the ones that show up. We'd like to get more of a volunteer corps going. A lot of trail organizations all over the country, and a lot of organizations are facing this where their supporters are, to use a term some people will not like, aging out of that activity.
Sure.
So I meet a lot of people that are younger that want to get involved in these types of things. We'll be doing a National Trails Day, Trail Work Day with Friends of New Germany, which I looked them up on Facebook. They're the support group for New Germany State Park.
Okay.
So typically annually in June, we meet with them on Trails Day. We get together with all of our tools. We do trail maintenance projects for them over in New Germany. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
And you're a nonprofit, so like a high schooler that needs service learning coordination hours, right? Service learning hours, that's still a thing for high schoolers, right?
I think it is, but we don't have any programs that offer for service learning. We did have an Eagle Scout work with us last year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm an Eagle Scout.
Are you?
No, yep.
Yeah.
All right, so John Carr.
So is Lee. Well, we'll be there. He lives on the other coast.
Eagle Scouts only.
Yeah, I want to say, props to John Carr and his dad Jay. They live in Accident, and when they saw the work that we were doing in Margraf to remediate it and get it open again, they volunteered to help. But then John asked if he could do his Eagle Scout project in Margraf. Cool. He went out, did a lot of limb removal for us and weed eating. He built 3 beautiful benches that we were able to place out there that have the Boy Scout emblem burned into them, that kind of thing. So yeah, if there's some scouts out there looking for something to do, we can help.
Inspiring. Love it.
I think Steve Green's a scout master.
He was their troop leader.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Hey, the other thing we can probably help you with, and you're bunching the dragon boat race, which we bring up a lot. We committed. We're
in.
We wrote the check today.
That's awesome.
We're in it this year. Thank
Gold
you guys
member.
for volunteering your time there. We can help you promote your events. So let's make sure we stay in touch.
Absolutely.
The Grand Fondos, the whatever, we can definitely help you promote them. And I would say keep going. I wish somebody would bring Savage Man back. There's another event that we haven't thought of yet that somebody needs to bring here. There are more events we could do like that. Like if you're getting 650 people to ride the Grand Fondo, to cycle the Grand Fondo, these aren't little bikes they're renting. They're $2,000 to $20,000 bikes. I mean, these are legit athletes, and there are more events that could go on here.
The estimated impact that's been related to me that the Grand Fondo has in the county is close to $1 million.
I believe it. Sure.
There are people that show up days in advance, and they rent a hotel or they rent a rental home so they can get acclimated, so they can train. Their families come in support of them. We do this restaurant swap where the restaurants that participate in Taste of Garrett offer a $10 voucher to all the Grand Fondo athletes. And so, we have this great kind of community spirit to something like this.
There was a guy, I wish I remembered his name, and maybe we'll wrap up after this. He came here from New York to ride the Grand Fondo, and I don't remember how old he was. He was in his 60s, and he was here with his daughter, and he forgot his biking shoes.
Right.
Okay, so their first thought was, I was like, hey, go to High Mountain Sports, pick up a new pair of shoes.
Right.
He didn't want to because they were his special shoes. He's getting ready to 100 miles, and he was ready to do them. He paid my friend Mike Green, I don't know, a couple $100 to drive to New York, pick up his shoes, and bring them back for them. Like, that's how legit this guy is. He wouldn't just go buy a pair of new shoes. He didn't have time to go back because he needed to sleep and do his stretches or whatever these guys
Also
do.
goes to show you how legit Mike Green is. I must say, dude, who goes to you, bro?
Maybe this guy's listening to it. I wish I remembered his name. It was at Sun Place. He rented one of our houses at Sun Place, and I ran into him, and I was like, look, I can help you, or I'll try to help you, but I don't have time for a 12-hour drive. I can't go there back. And Mike Green was one of the first people I thought of. I said, hey, man, do you want to make a couple $100?
Right.
And Mike drove to New York, got the guy's shoes, and
Wow.
came back.
Shoes.
That's awesome.
What's up, Mike? He's down in Key West now.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Sometimes the flight gets delayed, but
Josh, thank you.
Thank you for the
man.
invitation, guys. I really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
absolutely. Peace.
Hit the outro.